Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is BucketPonds and my name is Terry. This is episode 3 of our podcast and I'm very excited to get started. So this video was suggested by our friend on the BucketPonds Facebook page, our friend Margaret, and she mentioned that her son is getting into raising ostracods and she was curious if we could write up a wish list of all the things that you would need to get started in this hobby. I am happy to comply, and I'm very grateful for the excellent suggestion. So thank you, Margaret. But first off, we have a journal. That's right. A few of you guys have seen my drawings from when I plan out the aquariums, and it's a lot of fun to sit there and draw up your tank and kind of plan out the plants that you want to see in there, and of course give it a title, and then maybe keep a little note section where you can write some things about the tank as it develops. Oftentimes I'll talk about, labeling my jars, and that's a great idea. But sometimes you can get a lot of information that you need to write on the label, and it doesn't look very good. So it's much better to just keep your labels in your notebook and go from there. But next up, we're going to need a few jars. That's right, we need a few jars to get started in this hobby. You guys may remember way back in the early days of the channel, we built 4 of these right here, these blue mason jars. And we actually built 4 more clear jars separately. But running those 4 jars taught me a lot about our plants and pets and how things interact. So I would suggest that you start with some mason jars. I'll include a link to these on the channel, on the description, in case you guys want to watch them and see what I'm talking about. But they are very old videos, so be ready for that. Now you have your jar, you have your journal. Let's get started. So let's think, you're going to build your first jar aquarium. You're going to need some substrate. So let's add some substrate to our wish list. Now I would suggest compost, organic compost. You don't have to make this yourself. You can go to Home Depot and get you a nice bag of Miracle Grow organic compost. That stuff's pretty cheap and very effective. That's what I would use for a new hobbyist. Personally, I've started using Black Cow composted cow manure, which sounds nasty, but it's very effective at growing plants. It looks really nice, actually, once things get growing. But for the new hobbyist, I would stick to organic compost. Now, if you're not worried about cost, maybe you have a little extra money in the bank, I would look for some Amazonia soil. That stuff's beautiful. I've never used it myself, but I can notice it usually when it's been put into an aquarium, and it does have a nice look to it. I'm sure it's very effective at growing plants. So yeah, you can add some soil to the wish list. Now, I like to build things in the Wallstad method, and it sounds complicated, but it's very simple. That just means that we have our compost in the bottom with some kind of cap on top, keeping that compost pinned down into the bottom of the jar. So you can use gravel, you could use marbles or something, but I like to use sand. And, because we like to keep our costs low, I would suggest some play sand or some pool filter sand. So let's add that to the wish list as well. Pool filter sand, play sand, they're very effective. They're very cheap. I would rinse it a few times before you put it in your jar, but otherwise it's nice, useful material for these projects. As always, you could go for a more expensive option, probably from a pet store. I'm sure you can find some kind of aquarium or reptile sand, but that's not strictly necessary for these little jars. Next, you're going to need some water and some microfauna and maybe some plants to populate your project. So I would add a trip to a local pond to my wish list. Yeah. Alternatively, you could ask around. Maybe your uncle has a fish tank or someone that you know, and odds are they have some detritus worms or some ostracods or hydra or something in their aquarium, something they would probably want to get rid of. And I'm sure they give you a little scoop if you were to ask nicely. Otherwise, you could try a smaller pet store. Those little mom and pop pet stores, they have a lot of flexibility in how they do things. And generally, they are willing to wheel and deal with you. Maybe you just want some bladder snails and, maybe you'll offer to buy some of their plants or something. I'm sure they'll make a deal with you in one way or another. Though I would avoid the big pet stores because every time I go in there, they don't know what I'm talking about. Like, oh, hey guys, I'm trying to build a jar to raise some ostracods. And their fish expert doesn't even know what an ostracod is. Yeah, I'm not making this up. The poor lady, she was probably the store manager or something, but yeah, I remember that experience pretty well. And now the reptile guy, he was good. But there's just not a lot of people in this jar aquarium hobby raising leeches and paramecium and things like that, So generally, they're not going to be very helpful. They're at PetSmart. Sorry, PetSmart. That's what happened. It was your store, not my fault. So we have our jar, our journal. We have our substrate. We have some water from a pond, maybe an aquarium. We have some plants that we scooped up as well. Some little creatures inside, algae spores, all the good stuff. Now you might be thinking, how do I get this to live? How do I grow this? Maybe you live in like Cincinnati or New York, and you don't have a nice porch or somewhere that you could put these items. You're stuck indoors. Well, get yourself a few clamp lamps. That's right. Let's add clamp lamps to the wish list. I know what you're thinking. A clamp lamp, it does look kind of trashy, but they're very effective. They are meant for outdoor use, like in the garage or underneath the hood of the car as you're working on it. But generally, they're very effective for positioning over your jars, maybe slightly behind them a little bit. And yeah, I like to keep them off camera, of course. If you're willing to spend some money, then there are better options. I'm actually being lit right now by a desk lamp, which is meant to clamp onto the side of a table. But we're reusing it here for something else. Now you might be thinking, I need the big, expensive LED hanging lights and all this stuff. That's not true. All you need is some daylight LED bulbs. I use 800 lumen LED bulbs in a daylight spectrum. And these will grow a lot of plants. You'd be surprised. Now, I do run a lot of low light plants, and that does help. But generally, yeah, you can grow quite a few plants off some very inexpensive bulbs. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get rolling in this hobby. Over time, you might make a few smart investments for a big, a lamp or, something like that. But to start with, I would go with some clamp lamps and some cheap bulbs. Now, next on the wish list, I would add a window. That's right, a window facing east. That is your best bet for growing jars with plants inside, as they'll get light in the morning as the sun rises, and then they'll get indirect light for the rest of the day, which is perfect. On the opposite side, facing the west, you'll get that light, indirect light at first, and then you'll get that nice hot sunlight, which can actually cook your jar. So I don't like western-facing windows for that reason. I would definitely suggest some east-facing windows. So yeah, let's add a window to our wish list. I use my lights to go for 24-hour light. I don't turn them off. And that's supplemented by natural daylight in that window. So now we have everything we need for our brand new hobbyist to build a few nice jars, to keep track of their projects as they develop, and to keep things growing over the long term with their properly set up compost and wall stab method, their nice lighting to keep things well lit and flourishing. And that's about it, guys. The final item I would add to my wish list would be a few tutorials on jar aquariums. That's right. Now, of course, you can find lots and lots of tutorials on my channel, but there are other YouTubers out there who make cool jar aquariums as well. I could give a bunch of shout outs to the people I like to watch, but they're not calling me by name, so I don't see the point. I will say that I've met another YouTuber recently on YouTube named Nature Nest, and I love your channel, dude. It's awesome. You made a new subscriber, and it was cool to talk with you in the comments. If you guys make videos and stuff, please let me know. If you maybe just take a few pictures of your ecospheres and stuff and you want to share them, check out the BucketPonds Facebook page. But you would be welcome to share pictures of your projects and to ask questions and things, and we're just a big happy community. But that's it for today, guys. I am BucketPonds. Thank you to our friend Margaret on the BucketPonds Facebook page for suggesting the topic of this video. Thank you to our patrons, Claywise, Swansea, and Jay. If I've missed anyone who has recently signed up, please forgive me. We're going to do a t-shirt giveaway when we get about 10 people on Patreon, 10 or 15. But I'll just, put some names in a hat, pluck a name out, and I will send you a free BucketPonds t-shirt. There are some caveats, of course. You have to be in the United States of America, and I can only really send one size, so I hope extra large will fit. But we still have time to get on there, guys. You got to get on the Patreon. I need a few more people in there before I can start, providing an excuse to spend a little bit of money to get these t-shirts out. Otherwise, guys, we'll start selling some t-shirts here sooner or later. But for now, we're just having fun. But I have another video coming up soon. It's kind of funny. I filmed this one back in October, and I'm just now feeling like the tank is ready. But well, you guys, Clay, you mentioned that we had some serious Bob Ross type of vibes. And I'm telling you, this next video is like heavy Bob Ross. It's very much inspired by the chill happiness of a Bob Ross episode. So, we're going to have some fun. I'll have that video up soon, and I've got to go for now. So, thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to 2024, to building more tanks with you and having a lot of fun. So, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and drop a comment.